Back on MorningLine, and our guest, Clint Kelly, malpractice attorney here in town. His office in Hendersonville. And we'll give you the details on how you can contact him. As again, people can call you with questions, see if they got the case.
For free.
For free. And like he just did earlier with was it Sarah Patsy, you could tell over the phone, well, you may have had a case, but he'll straight up with you. I can't take your case, and here's the reason why. Or, yeah, and he's gotten cases off this show. In fact, one active one he's working on. It's quite interesting. But we've got another call for you. Let's go to Christy. Hi, Christy. Are you there? Good morning, Christy. How can we help you?
I was calling to see if you could tell me what the normal is when you have a malpractice case, how long it takes to settle a case.
Oh, great question.
Well, there's a range.
Yeah.
The quickest I've ever resolved a case was within 3 months after I filed the lawsuit.
I'm sorry, how long?
3 months.
3 months, okay.
And that is 1%. The majority of my cases get resolved within about 2 years. Sometimes it may take 3 or 4, and there are a lot of reasons for that. It can depend on whether the court system is slower than other court systems, whether the case goes up on appeal if you have to try it, or there's a legal issue that stops it and the Court of Appeals has to look at it. There are some cases that linger around for 5 or 6 years. I've heard about those where the lawyer who takes the case just doesn't push it hard enough. And that's the worst thing for the patient and the client, because they expect some resolution and the lawyer either doesn't know what he's doing, or he's just not excited about the case, didn't want to take it in the first place.
Take it. Gosh, that's annoying. That's malpractice. Yeah. Hey, I'm just curious, Christy, have you been waiting a while?
Yes, I have. I filed the case in 2013 in June, and I've already done depositions in April this year, and now my attorney is telling me that he's waiting on 2016 court cases to open in the courts. So it's kind of got me on hold, and it's like there's nothing being done. He tells me he can't get a court date. It's all kinds of excuses coming up, and I'm just trying to find out if there's a possibility that I may need to change attorneys.
What kind of injury do you have?
Yeah,
Christy?
what happened to you?
I had foot surgery. I've had to have 3 foot surgeries due to the first malpractice case. I had reconstructive, I had hammer toes, and he went in to reconstruct those. And when he put pins all the way through, and my bones shifted. And then I had to go to an orthopedic surgeon, and first I had to go to a regular foot doctor, and he had to remove the screws because they were all the way through my foot. And then he sent me to an orthopedic surgeon because my bones had shifted, so I had to go to another orthopedic surgeon and have them redone the first surgery.
What are they saying? What did your attorney, or what are you alleging the first surgeon or doctor did wrong?
He put the pins, when he did surgery, he put the pins all the way through my foot, and I was walking on the bottom of it, of the screws, and I kept telling him I was having pain, and he kept putting me off, telling me there was nothing wrong, it was normal. And then finally my primary care doctor sent me to another doctor to look at it, and that doctor found that the screws were protruding out the bottom of my foot.
That's like you were walking on nails.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Okay,
So then that doctor immediately removed the screws because they were sticking out the bottom of my foot. And then he found out, when he done x-rays and MRI, he found out that my bone, where he had cut my bone to correct the hammer toe, he found out that my bone, where he put that pin through there, had shifted. So he had to send me to an orthopedic surgeon because he wasn't allowed to do surgery on a bone. So I had to go to an orthopedic surgeon and have the reconstructive surgery done again on for the hammer toe.
All right, hang on, Christy. Let's just see. What do you think, Clint?
Well, first of all, I just was curious what the case was about, because if it's more complex than others, that can account for why there is a delay in getting it resolved. Now, if it's a 2013 case and depositions have just taken place, or taken place, not too far away, and the lawyer's looking for dates in 2016, that's not unreasonable, because at this point in 2015, you're not going to get a trial date. Now, you've got to go to court and actually get the court to open up the docket or the calendar and allow you to set the case into next year. That it just requires steady pursuit.
Yeah.
You can't ever just kind of kick back and let it happen. You've got to constantly push the case forward until you get some kind of resolution. That's what you have to do on behalf of the client. I would not recommend that she jump ship as yet, because I think in this situation what you do is you want to sit down, Christy, and talk to your lawyer and say, I really need to understand, if you think, Christy, it's taking too long, why is this taking so long? And to try to get some steady answers so that your attorney has an opportunity to explain what it is, because it may simply be he is doing all that he can do within reason, and it's just not happening any faster. However, if you're dissatisfied with that answer and you want to get a second opinion, then that's certainly your right, and you can do that.
You go that way. Just by the way, it's my experience, at least in dealing with you in other cases, a lot of times when you take on the cases, you're taking on cases where you think you have a strong case, all right? And doesn't it start with a letter? One of those letters the hospital or the doctor hates to get, and you're pointing it out to them, and they're reading this. Then they do their diligence, and I would think a lot of times these cases never see the courtroom. They're settled quietly. Like when I asked you, did you win? You said, it was
because we signed confidentiality.
Yeah, exactly, taken care of, and you can't say any more. But when you hear that, it means that a settlement has been reached, some money likely has been exchanged, and every party's gone their own way. So I would think that can happen fairly quickly. When it drags on like this, I guess it's when it's a gray case where it might go either way, but they think there's a case and it's headed toward a trial. But I mean, really, how often does it even go to trial?
Well, I try. The majority of cases I'm able to settle.
Yeah, that's what I think. Most of them, I bet.
Now, in Christy's case, it may be a situation where the physician is just drawing a line that's saying, I'm not going to settle this case. I'm going to try this case because I don't believe I did anything wrong. And certainly that's the physician's prerogative.
Yeah.
And that's why you try a lot of cases, is the healthcare provider says, I don't think I did anything wrong, even if he or she did do something wrong. And there are situations where he or she did not do anything wrong and should try their case.
I understand that. But see, I'm thinking someone like you doesn't take a case unless you really see something that looks legit. And if I'm the hospital, I understand drawing the line if you're getting a bunch of these. But if you know you did wrong, unless you just think you can drag it on and bury someone, wouldn't you rather just save all the legal fees, reach some type of settlement if you can reach a reasonable one and move on, especially if, as oftentimes some of these more graphic cases make the media? That looks bad. That's PR that's going to kill you.
To your point, Nick, I'm not going to trial more often than not because the doctor won't settle. I'm going to trial more often than not because it's about money. I'm not getting enough money that I think the client deserves.
Okay,
and that's
so there's a disagreement on what the damages are.
Yes.
All right, let's go to Melinda. Hi, Melinda.
Good morning.
Good morning. What can we do for you?
I was wondering about these in-house assisted living or whatever when you're in the hospital and they put you in these places for these people to do things for you, and they put you on the beds and things like that, and then the doctor don't even see you. He comes in and says, my name is so-and-so, and walks out, and he never discusses your situation.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're talking about. A lot of people have the in-home care, a lot of them are nurses, and again, it's what you talked about earlier. You don't always see the doctors. That's not necessarily malpractice, that's just lousy doctoring.
Well, or it may be the facility itself. I mean, there's certain regulations they have to follow in terms of who sees who and what given time that occurs. I'll tell you, Nick, and you and I discussed this before, my greatest concern going forward are the elderly people, the boomers that are going to be in these facilities as they get older. And as I told you, the downward pressure on medicine to have fewer and fewer doctors handling greater numbers of patients. So you have these, what I call extenders, the technicians, the nursing assistants, those people making critical day-to-day decisions when they don't really know what they're doing, and people like her getting hurt. That's what worries me the most.
All right, as we wrap things up, just want to remind folks that you've got your statute of limitations of 1 year.
1 year.
Call Clint. We can put do we have the number? We'll put it up again in the final segment when I wrap things up, but that's your office there. That number, 824-3703. Obviously, you're very busy, but you've got a great staff. They take the calls, and then at some point, you can hear and review the case and determine whether or not there's something legitimate there, correct?
You could rename this show Sad Stories About 1 Year, because that's
sad stories
so often.
And we should say, beyond the statute of limitations, there's been cases cases that have come into you where it's within the 1 year period, and it appears as though there's been someone that had something done wrong to them, but there's another reason why you don't take the case.
Yeah, either because the damages aren't substantial enough, patient makes a recovery, and there are a lot of those types of cases. Yeah. And there are also situations where there may be arguably some negligence, but also there might be a good argument against negligence, and I simply can't take it. I don't take a case that I don't think I can win.
Right.
I'm not doing the client service if I do.
And I'll say this, having worked with you on some cases and some others I've covered, I mean, prosecuting and going after these cases are expensive. So that's why sometimes when you say, well, gee, if you know that I was wronged, why can't you take the case? How much money does there have to be? You have to hire experts, your time, the filings and everything. It's expensive.
Thousands of dollars.
Thousands of dollars that go into it. So you have to have enough damages to recognize that if we win, we're going to get enough money to cover all of these expenses that you're paying out of your pocket.
Right.
Plus, the settlement that will hopefully be good for the victim and your salary or your pay.
Or I cannot afford to take the case.
Right. It's a tricky thing, and we didn't even get into this morning, but
had some good calls.
We had good calls. The tort reform and all of that. It's harder and harder for you to sue on these cases, and as you tell by the show, there's not a lot of frivolous cases. It's unfortunate. You got to protect the patient.
It's been going down, Nick, year after year after year.
Yeah. So people are like, oh, lawyers, all they want to sue. Wait till you're the one that's damaged.
It's always that
and ask yourself.
Until it happens to the person who's griping.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden it's where are my rights.
Exactly. Clint, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
We'll see you again very soon, my friend. Take a break, have a programming note about tomorrow, and I'll put his contact information up for you. If you have more questions, you can call or bounce a case off, and we'll be back right after this.